You're right, people, Alex Mathers here. Thank you for tuning in to another video with me on this lovely day. Now, we're going to go into the rather marvelous topic of social anxiety. That was me being rather sarcastic, but I want to treat this annoyance that a lot of us have in our lives, and something that I'm very intimate with a positive slant. I want to show you guys that it is possible to get out of social anxiety and anxiety issues in general. So for those of you who get worried and ruminate and get anxious in general, this is a video for you as well. And I wanted to take a positive, hopeful approach to how we can fix this in ourselves, in our lives, and how we can move from this being troublesome. Now, for those of you who don't know much about me, I've been afflicted with social anxiety for the good part of 10 years now, although it's gotten a lot better over the last 5 or 6 years. But I had many issues with it, starting from being bullied at school, being quiet at school and getting self-conscious around my silence and my shyness at school, that sort of progressed into full-blown social anxiety around university time and beyond, and how that created a lot of avoidance, a lot of frustration in me, a lot of just sort of low vibes, and many frustrations in life that could otherwise have been avoided had I talked about or addressed some of the ideas that I'm going to bring up in this video. Now, there are 3 components. Having spent many years looking into how I could move past these issues of rumination and overthinking and the anxiety that comes from all that, there are 3 aspects that I have come to the conclusion with, that I have seen now, that has most effectively helped me, that I hope will help you guys if you take on board some of these ideas. 3 components to overcoming social anxiety. I'm going to keep it fairly brief and fairly simplified for this video, but if you want me to go into more depth in consecutive videos, I will do. I'm also keen to chat with you guys via the comments below and keep this discussion going and help many of you guys who suffer with this kind of stuff, who don't need it. You don't need to be dealing with this problem. I just want to make that clear to you. You don't need to be struggling with this. There are ways through it. And this is what we're going to talk about in this video. Before we go into that, I want to make sure that you guys have subscribed to my newsletter at alexmathers.net. This is where I share additional stuff that you don't get anywhere else. And I want to make sure that you're also following me on Twitter at @IamAlexMathers as well. So now that we've got all that out of the way, let's get into the three components that I view as being the most important. Obviously, there are many variables that will help, but these are the 3 core components I think will help you the most profoundly in getting through your social anxiety and your anxiety in general. The first one is addressing those bad habits that exasperate or create anxiety in you. And we know that these exist. There are certain things that we do. There are certain foods that we eat regularly. There are certain aspects to our diet that we can also consider a habit in this case. And there are things like vices like smoking and drinking and eating sugar and that kind of stuff that we need to cut out of our lives if we want to get serious about our anxiety. And if we have anxiety and we have ambitions in our life and we want to enjoy a life of freedom and happiness and joy and hope, and we are able to independently do what we want to do and act assertively in the ways that we want without being restricted by these fears and these unnecessary doubts about how we perceive other people to view us, we need to do whatever it takes at the ground level to address these problems. And this is where habits come in. This is where vices and addressing all those things that make us feel bad about ourselves and provoke anxiety exist. We need to find these things, call them out by name, and take them out of our lives. Now, obviously, this could be a whole series of videos in itself, and I'm aware of that, but you've got to do this research on your own side. And I'm sure you've done plenty of it if you have suffered from social anxiety. But I want to bring up some of the things that I have been quite aggressive about cutting out of my life. In some cases, I haven't completely eradicated these things because I still enjoy them in parts, but there are certain things that I have now become familiar with that I know will provoke my low-level anxiety or even high-level anxiety, that combined with the fear of being judged by other people exasperates it to unnecessary levels. So these are things like smoking and drinking alcohol and eating sugar and even going into carbohydrates. For me, this is what makes me sweaty and anxious. And I found that as soon as I cut out carbohydrates and went and lent to a more carnivore-based diet, free of processed foods and unnecessary sugars, that made a huge impact on my physical well-being. My anxiety levels dropped considerably from that aspect of my habits in diet. And this is something that you want to be aware of as well. Quitting Porn and masturbation is another big one for you guys, especially. These are all things that provoke anxiety. So are many other stimulants. I don't want to go into too much depth here, but just be aware of those stimulants, those bad vices, and that food that impacts your quality of being. And that's, of course, plays a big role in anxiety. Diet, what you're taking in, the stimulants you're allowing to bring into your life, these play a massive, massive role. So you need to look into what affects you. Everyone is different, so you need to look into your own responses. Maybe spend some time off certain foods and then reintroduce them into your diet to see what kinds of things are triggering certain degrees of anxiety. Caffeine is another one I've had to cut out. I mean, I drink a bit of tea here and there, but coffee is now gone. I find that when I drink coffee, I get jittery. I get all the typical results of what happens when you drink a lot of caffeine, and the anxiety is, skyrockets. And of course, that adds to any social anxiety that's there, or any leftover social anxiety. So you've got to get strict. This is really the key point of this component, is that there are certain things in our lives that we enjoy: the sugars, the caffeine, the smoking, the drugs, whatever else. And looking into your diet and maybe thinking about shifting your diet around and making it cleaner. Certain things are going to be very difficult to drop. Certain habits you will have fallen in love with and will form part of your routine, and you'll be very sad at the idea of dropping something like coffee out of your routine. But if it's affecting your anxiety and it's making your social anxiety worse, my golly, you've got to get on that thing. You've got to get on it and cut it out of your life. You've got to stop those things that make you feel bad about yourself. Stop those things that make your anxiety worse. So it's about accepting the fact that you've got to drop them out of your life, being ruthless, and reminding yourself once you've made the cut, once you have cut these bad habits out, and maybe you're tracking that in an app, or maybe you've got someone holding you accountable, maybe you've got a coach that's helping you keep off these things. I recommend coach.me for online coaching. You are going to need to make sure that if you have that sense of creep coming back and you're tempted to go back to those habits that make you feel worse, make you feel depressed, make you feel low and anxious, you need to be very clear on the reason why you cut those things in the first place. So this involves, for me, writing a list of all the reasons why this thing needs to be out of my life. All the reasons, I have a list now of all the reasons coffee needs to be out of my life. And if I feel a sense that I'm going back to coffee, I have to read out that list. I remind myself in great depth why that is no longer in my life. So that's one component of reducing anxiety in my life, is cutting out those bad habits, readdressing the dietary aspects of your life, and getting really, really strict. And perhaps down the line you can start reintroducing those things that you had some fun with. But if you are in a stage where anxiety is holding you back in life in unnecessary ways and making you avoidant and making you side skirt doing certain things, like for me, for example, so many things social anxiety stopped me from doing, like going out to certain events or meeting certain people. Very, very important for developing a business with someone like me with big ambitions. I can't have social anxiety screw things up. So I've had to get very strict about things like coffee and processed food, and I pretty much have a very minimal diet now that is composed only of meats, vegetables, dairy. It's very, very, very limited and very little else. So I have to sort of let a lot of people down. And if there are certain friends that can't be with you because you're not going to have a drink with them, then maybe they weren't worth being a friend in the first place. So be strict about cutting things out. So the second component, this applies more specifically to those of you who have social anxiety, but think about how you can adapt this approach to anxiety in general, or particular phobias you have. But if you have social anxiety, the next major component of getting past it and living a normal life again is to address the fear itself. You have to confront your fear of being in front of, interacting with, speaking to, presenting in front of human beings. You need to get better at that. And don't worry, this doesn't mean immediately going on a stage in front of 3,000 people and giving a talk. This is, I'm already getting sweaty at the idea of that. This is about gradually introducing yourself to those things that stimulate fear in you and stimulate that anxiety. Now, the good news is that once you've cut out most of those things in your diet and your habits and your stimulants and stimuli in life that affect your anxiety, my belief is that it knocks out about 80 to 90% plus of that anxiety. If you get your diet right, you'll be very pleasantly surprised to see that your anxiety is going to be mostly gone, if not completely eradicated. And I think we underestimate the power of diet and stuff to influence our health and reduce anxiety. And it might be that you didn't even have social anxiety really in the first place. You kind of lumped it in that area. So that's great. So once you have sorted out diet and habits, you might find that confronting your fear of other people is made a hell of a lot easier. And when I say confronting your fear, I'm talking about a desensitization program of some sort. I'm actually developing a program which is going to be finished very soon, which is going to be available, called the Fearless Program, which gets you to undertake a certain activity or a set of activities every day that gradually desensitizes you through exposure therapy, through exposure to fear, like potentially fearful things in a social context, that gets you more and more confident about yourself and your ability to deal with social interaction. And over time, the intensity goes up, but your ability to handle each task also goes up, and your tolerance for the fear and uncertainty that comes with that also improves. So exposure therapy and getting in front of those things that scare you. So this might start off with asking people the time or asking people for directions in the street, and gradually upping the ante until you get to, full-blown conversations with strangers, or calling people up on the phone and doing public speaking and that kind of stuff as well. Having a program that is set out for you with the intensity of each task gradually increasing and a support group behind it and my leadership through that could be really helpful for you. So if you are interested in that aspect of overcoming your anxiety, and this is of course applying to people with other forms of anxiety, this isn't just for social anxiety, it's important for everyone to kind of get through these fears. The Fearless program is going to be really, really useful for you. So stay put, stay posted on that coming out. Make sure you've subscribed to my newsletter to make sure you hear about that, alexmathers.net. But that is the second key component for me, is introducing to your life those things that you previously avoided in small doses and incrementally increasing doses. And you could run your own program, you could create your own list of things to do and go out and do, or it might simply be the case of just committing to interacting more on a day-to-day basis with other people. So if you go to the gym, try and incorporate starting some conversations here and there, or just interacting in some way to get your fears and your barriers down. And you'll find that you get better at this kind of thing over time. You get better at dealing with the uncertainty of worrying about being rejected by other people and all that kind of stuff. So you need the practice, you need to put in the reps and the repetitions, and you will get better at this. And as I said, combined with that first component of improving diet and improving your anxiety at the base foundation level, that's already going to knock out a lot of your anxiety. And ultimately, it's about the practice as well. So bring a lot of practice in and get better at dealing with people, and take your time, go at your own pace. Just whatever you do, don't revert back to treating your body poorly and ruminating and avoiding. You want to be doing the exact opposite of all that stuff. You want to be improving your health, improving your diet, improving your habits, feeling good about yourself, and then desensitizing to those things that scare you. There's a final aspect of this, because I always emphasize with dealing with any problem in your life, you don't want to spend too much time on the problem, because getting obsessed about what's wrong with you or how you need to be fixed is going to make it more apparent to you, and it's going to make it worse effectively. So by thinking about things too much, and by thinking about what's wrong with you and how you need to change, and going to therapy for months on end and thinking about things and obsessing and ruminating, this is where the problem originated in the first place. You're thinking too much about what's wrong with you, supposedly. And of course, there isn't anything wrong with you. The only thing wrong with you is that you're thinking too much about what could be wrong with you. So you need to drastically change your perspective on where your attention needs to be placed in your life. And this is something that occurred to me far too late in the whole process, which is that you need to be moving your attention away from what's wrong with you, how can I be fixed, who do I need to talk things through, what was wrong with my upbringing, how badly did my parents treat me, and all that kind of stuff. It's all nonsense. Focus on what you can do in life. Focus on success. Focus on changing your life for the better. Focus on immersing yourself in positive ideas with positive people, and focus on your dreams. You can do this right away. It's not about something that needs to be delayed. It's not about something that can happen next year once you've gotten over your social anxiety. It's happening right now, and it has to happen right now. You need to be focused on success right now. And this doesn't mean success necessarily in being amazing at socializing. It means success in all areas of life. So get your attention. I would say 95% of your attention in your life right now, even if you've got drastic, terrible social anxiety, should be to focus on doing well in life, in winning, in seeing results, in getting up early, in being disciplined, in turning your life around for the better. These things are going to have a profound impact on your life just by where you place your attention. So this is about writing down your goals every day and getting excited about your dreams again and focusing on total and utter domination and success in your life. And when you do that, when you focus your attention on other things, on success, on doing well, on making money, on achieving those dreams, suddenly the weeds of doubt and those worries and the things that you used to ruminate, they will get squashed. They will be overwhelmed by all of this positivity and excitement and forward-thinking momentum that you've brought into your life now. So those are the three components. To go over them again is cut out bad habits and reorganize and improve your diet, and look into how you might be responding to certain types of foods in ways that other people fortunately don't, and maybe you have allergies and certain things. You have to look into that kind of stuff. Look into fasting, look into resetting your immune system through fasting. So there's all stuff that I've done and has improved my health and ability to stay calm immensely. So cut out the bad habits, improve your diet. Second component is expose yourself to the things that you feared. So if you have social anxiety, you've got to start introducing more social interaction into your life. You've got to start going to these events, these things that you previously feared, but don't worry, you can do these things in tiny steps. And that doesn't necessarily mean you need to go to things you don't want to go to. Still feature things that you want to do in your life. You don't need to do stuff just for the sake of it. So when I talk about exposure therapy, I'm talking about going and talking to people that you actually want to go and meet, or bringing this into your business. So if you have a business that requires you to meet certain types of clients, bring those guys in as your source of exposure to new people and getting better at that kind of stuff. And then the third aspect of overcoming social anxiety is to focus on success. And really most of the trajectory and the momentum and the focus in all of this should be towards doing well, focusing on your dreams, your visions, your goals, and reminding yourself of those goals every day, and focusing on the happiness and the joy and the hope that comes with focusing on success. And that will drown out all of those negative ruminations and the worries and the sense that you need to fix yourself. That will all be quashed. But all these three in collaboration are going to have the most profound effect on your social anxiety, like it has for me over the years. I wish I had known about this stuff a little bit later. But as I said, for the second component, if you want to try out this desensitization program, that's not only going to help you overcome social fears, it's going to improve your confidence around people, but it's also going to improve your business because it has a business component. So if you're a freelancer or you're an entrepreneur or you work for an employer, these are skills that I'm going to introduce through the course that will help you get better at improving, expanding your business, expanding your network. It's all intertwined in this whole program, and it's done in such a way that it's always manageable at every step of the way. It gets incrementally more challenging, but you will be improving your skills as you go. So this will have a profound impact on your self-confidence around other people. Your presentation skills will improve. You will obliterate anxiety, especially in collaboration with the other two things that I mentioned. And do you want to have this hold you back anymore, or do you want to get moving? So if you want to hear more about that, make sure you're subscribed here. You're on my newsletter, and stay in touch. I hope that helped. Do like this if you like this video. Send me a comment below if you want to get involved in the discussion here. Thanks, guys.